Yeah, but you could look at that as two ways. You could look at that as kind of anarchistic or just ignorant, you know. There are some rules to filmmaking.
Yeah, but I wonder, do you think, like, sort of the Monkees' whole project, and the sort of not knowing what you're doing, right? The sort of like, the sort of madness of the project, how do you see that in retrospect as being, formative to what the Monkees was? How much of it were you really in control of?
Well, my gut reaction to that is none, zero. But I think at times, I would have fights. I would have these notorious fights around because I was trying to figure out a lot of what was going on. And a lot of it had to do with the music, because the music was a critical path to me. I thought, you cannot do this show with 1960s sensibility Hollywood commercials as the music bed. Not in the age of the Beatles. And for me, not in the age of rock and roll, and not in the age of Texas blues. You can't do that. It's got to be real. Now, Kirshner, who was a fierce adversary to me, and I was to him, he was an excellent pop song crafter, and he put himself in a position of saying, I want to control the music here, and I want this to be done a certain way. And for the most part, he was right. He got Tommy and Bobby involved. He got Jerry Galvin and Carole King. He got Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil, and Neil Diamond, and so on and forth. And he did a wonderful job of those early records. I think they're some of the best pop songs ever. But at the end of the day, the more I pushed against Don, and the more he pushed back, the more I realized, I'm not pushing against anything here. This guy doesn't have any control. None of us have any control. The producers don't have control. The editor doesn't have any control. So does it mean it's out of control? Well, it was under the control of something. And whatever it was under the control of then, it's under the control of now. And I suspect, not being a Monkees fan, I suspect that is a common bond we all share. That there's something that made that thing happen and pop in and work that lives with us all forever. Now, the fact that it happened at, some critical prepubescent time, I think is salient and is important and you got to look at, but that bores the hell out of me. And so I just don't think about it. I think, well, okay, that's probably true. But at the end of the day, didn't I just say end of the day? Okay, well then that's the end of the day. Over, done.
I do want to throw the next question to Rob, but I want him to ask whatever question he wants, but just can't help myself just sort of jumping off on what you just responded. There's something very spiritual about your outlook, Nez. Like, you have a sort of wisdom that is, it's spontaneous, but it's highly informed. You're sort of driven by something. And I'm wondering, to take it all the way back to your childhood, how much of this has been with you your whole life since, living with your mother, and, what is your relationship to spirituality via being raised Christian Science and, wherever you are today?
Well, it's a fair question. I was raised in a regimen of radical metaphysics, which, for a 3-year-old, it's a lot to swallow. But my mother was inspired by something, and she taught me certain things from that inspiration. I was inspired along certain lines that I learned that were spiritual. And what I mean by spirit is I'm talking about an infinite idea, the same spirit that governs the idea of numbers. Numbers and notes and color. The spiritual sense of the number 2 is not confined to the mark that makes the number 2. We all understand that, and we deal with it routinely. We deal with these ideas, these infinite ideas. So spiritually, it was my approach to everything, and it was my approach to the Monkees. Now, I'm going to come back to the music. When I was, 9 years old, I don't know, just tiny, I would see people play musical instruments. One particular guy played the organ in a music store, and he played things like Pico Tico and Frenesy and stuff like that. And I thought, that is the coolest thing I ever heard, because I was 9. That is the coolest thing I ever heard. How is he doing that? with his thinking. He's obviously not doing it with his body. He's making his body do it. How does he do that? That's cool. Well, I found out that there were certain kinds of music and certain sorts of things that happened that were inspiring on that level, and that made it well up in me. And so the music that was in the Monkees I approached spiritually. I approached, does it inspire? Does it make things happen inside me? And had I not been quite so adversarial to Don Kirshner, I think I could have understood more what he was after. But I was fighting for something. I was fighting for a basic roots kind of music. And Don was fighting for pop music. He said, no, you don't do pop music, you do it this way. And so I never quite got completely grounded inside the Monkees music the way I wanted to. But I did get something out of it that was deeply spiritual and deeply meaningful to me. And the same thing happened with the storylines and so forth. I thought, this is a little shallow, boys. And it's like, no, it's not shallow, it's fun. Don't get so, don't get your britches up your legs so far. Just be, just hang out with it and have a good time. And I think, yeah, there's something to that. And as I've gotten older, that's informed it more and more and more, because in this spiritual sense, while it is precise, and while it's a beautiful, it provides me with a beautiful access to ideas, it also has a gentle, loving kindness to it that's just easygoing. Just take it easy. And so there was something about that with the Monkees too. They were frantic and raucous, but they were not manic. There was an easygoing kind of, we can all make this work. What?
Yeah. No, there's a trust in the sort of subversiveness, let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Let's let these techniques be employed without really necessarily testing them with an audience or proving that this will somehow be, give 10,000 more laughs than this other way of doing it. It's like you get the sense that there's an experimentation and there's a trust in you just being allowed to go within the loosest sort of construct. And I don't know, that spirit carries through, and I think that it always strikes me as interesting that there's that happening at the same time you're having these battles for control that are sort of overriding the thing or kind of blending with the thing. I think it can be so kind of chill at the same time, that there's the same kind of tension.
Well, and what I'll say in closing, is that overriding spirit of the easygoing is what has pervaded, persisted, is perpetual, and is here now. That's what's going on. It's just this is a good time.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Rob. Good night. We'll see you around the house.